Hey, it's my face again. Okay. All right. So I thought that was I thought that was amazing. Um, that was the stories that they shared were I was not prepared for them. I hadn't heard all those stories like beforehand. Like so, this is my first time hearing all of that myself. Wow. So those reactions you saw from me, those were genuine. I had not heard those stories. And I mean it when I say that the brutality, it is brutality that individuals face under the system. In so many different ways. In so many different ways. It actively, my eyes were opened to what was going on and to how bad the situation was. It's not like I haven't talked about Medicare for All. If you've been part of this community, you know how I feel about Medicare for All. You know how I feel about single payer insurance. And and even then, like after all this time, after all the indignities that I've heard of individuals facing, right? Like for instance, like the health fairs that we have in this country that you might be aware of, you know, in which people from a large area, they'll come to a quote unquote fair. Well, they'll have medical professionals giving free care, right? Like Doctors Without Borders, and we never think operate in quote unquote rich nations. They come here because it's a our healthcare system, right? Emulates the worst um, the worst disasters you see in other areas of the world, right? They got to come get care because people need it. They're not going to get it from our government, not going to get it from our private insurance companies. They've been left behind, so they'll come. People far and wide to get problems that they've been pushing off forever, right? Taken care of. That's something we do here in this nation. And this is what freedom looks like, is what I'm told. Amazing. So, once again, because of the brutality of the system, I am proud to have partnered with Be a Hero, the Be a Hero campaign, and to do this event, right? And we want to hear from you. Exclamation point M4A, right? Like I told you, I was going to keep saying that until you got sick of it. Exclamation point M4A in my chat. To find the Discord server, please sign up for the Discord server and join us, because what we're going to do is we're going to do the audio only portion. So we'd love for you to share your story, right? Please come on in, share your story, so that other people can hear. Even if you're not even if you're from another country and if you experience a different system, a better system, well, we'd love to hear that too, right? But these stories, I think, are powerful. I think these stories have proven themselves to be powerful if you spend the last few hours with us. So this is why I love Be a Hero strategy of simply elevating these stories, getting them in front of people to change their minds. Because, and it's something that I didn't. There's so much that was discussed. It was something I didn't really get to cover. Was just that like these individuals who. These individuals who face these the problems of the healthcare industry, oftentimes they don't know, right? Like Empress said, like this education, they don't know how bad it is until you find out the hard way, right? So many people will go through life not understanding the brutality of the healthcare system until someone that is close to them or themselves has to touch on it, right? They lose a job. And then they find out what this is like, and they go through this battle, right? And so this is why spreading these stories is important. So thank you, Be a Hero. All right, so let's jump into it again. Exclamation point M4A. And I'm glad you're enjoying this, Leah, our very good friend Leah. I'm glad you're enjoying this discussion. Yeah, because I know you've had your own struggles. So, and like so many other people, thank you for being here. All right, let's give it a try. Let's give it a try. Let's give it a try. Again, this part is where audience members like you, yes, you, may join in. I'm going to jump into the big stage. If you join the M4A server, which you should right now, do that. You'll find an area that's called the big stage, and you can jump in there as well, and you can talk. And we'll be pulling people up to have these discussions, right? To share their stories. So like because this is new to everyone, so I'm just explaining this. It's audio only, and if you're not on stage, then no one can hear you. But we'll pull individual talkers on so they can share their individual stories as well and go from there. All right. I'm going to jump in !M4A and chat, and then I'm going to switch screens too. So hey. Oh, am I not on? Okay, not on stage yet. Become a speaker. Hey. Can you hear me? Sam?
Yes, can hear you.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. All right, so we're gonna give this a try. This is the first time we're doing this. We're doing this live, everyone. So bear with us. Right, we're gonna try this. Okay, all right. You're on screen, but not on screen. It's just your avatar. Sam was the individual, the amazing individual who contacted me, part of the Be a Hero campaign. Wanted to work with me in this community. To see if we can involve Twitch politics, if we can actually rally some individuals to be a part of this. So, Sam, please introduce yourself. If you're talking, we can't hear you. Sam?
Sorry, it was muted.
Yeah, don't worry.
Yeah, thank you so much, PrimeCayes, and really enjoyed the program and was really heartened to see all of the courage that was displayed by the participants in the last panel, really opening up your hearts and talking about difficult periods in your life that may even be ongoing to this day, and leveraging the moral authority that comes with those experiences to make a movement toward a better healthcare system, to make real change in the United States and make the world a better place through that for a lot of people. So really glad that we've done this. Thank you, Prime, for hosting this, and really looking forward to opening this up to everyone who wants to participate. You can, if you want to ask a question of Prime or any of the other participants, you can. If you want to share your story, you can as well. Just at the bottom, there's a space where you can raise your hand, and that will step forward. You'll step forward by doing that, and then we can accept your invitation to speak, and you'll join Prime up here in the speakers area. So thank you again, Prime, and take it away. Anybody who wants to join.
Yeah. Again, !M4A. If you want to be a part of this, we'd love to hear your stories. Yeah. While we wait for someone to step up, oh, we have someone. Oh, hey, Amanda. Hello, Amanda, who has recently been a part of our community. I'm so happy to have you here, Amanda. Thank you for deciding to join in.
Yeah, I just wanted to come on and say I'm not going to share my story right now, but I wanted to say hi, Sam. We've worked together in the past. I was with the Violence Against Women's Act. Amanda, that brings any bells? And then we worked together with Flip the West.
Yes, it does. Great to talk with you again. I hope you're doing really well.
I am. And I just wanted to let your audience know at how sensitive and careful and how accommodating you are and your organization is to hopefully encourage people to come and tell your stories, because that is one thing that I was extremely impressed about with just the delicacy around, the topics that you guys discuss and how much of a safe space you created. So I appreciated that, and I wanted your viewers to know.
Well, thank you so much, Amanda. I had no idea this was. I'm just finding this out, but I'm glad you had a good experience with the organization. Gives me confidence that I picked a right organization to partner with. So fantastic! Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. And then, I'm gonna head off, but in a little bit, maybe I'll hop on and tell my story. But right now I just can't. But yeah, I just wanted to hop on and say all that and hopefully encourage some people to get on because it's a great community, a great organization to be a part of. So
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Amanda. Looking forward to chatting again soon.
Thanks so
yeah.
much.
All right. Thanks. Bye, guys.
Yeah. So yes, oh, that's amazing. That's a nice connection. I like that we're building connections. That's part of organizing, right? Building these connections among individuals. So again, while waiting for others, I was I was just thinking about my past, like I said. So I worked within the hospital. My thing is, I don't have a great story myself. I've just witnessed other people's stories. So worked in the hospital, and so the paperwork for the denials, right? Those things would pile high, right? I remember, okay, so I did IT. I did IT for the hospital, and but for some reason I got wrangled into doing the denials myself. All right, don't ask me how that happened. Doesn't make sense. I can't explain it to you. But I remember just trying to assemble them all, the stacks, from names that you may have heard of in the past. The stacks of paper. So like Blue Cross Blue Shield and no, okay, I'm blanking on naming them. But the stacks of paperwork that was there, and I remember a few times there would be giant, like for one individual, right? The records that they were sending back and forth, right, would fill binders, several binders, right? And this is the information you have to pass back and forth when denials was happening. Okay, well, send me this information, send me that information, right? Similar again to our friend Empress when they were discussing these things. So they were you would send them. Sometimes we would have. I remember like assembling boxes, right? Assembling boxes of paperwork to be sent to an insurance industry, right? Again, for one individual, going back and forth, and then just saying no, no. The denials that were received, I remember the denials themselves, right? They were often just like one page. No. Why? They would give you some sort of code or something, right? And that's it. You're not getting that care. And then the dance continued. And I just remember like the amount of effort that was put into it. So we had social workers who were a part of the that system, right? And they would work as a liaison between the patients and the insurance companies themselves, right? And they would advocate for them. There's that word again, right? Advocate for their patients against the insurance companies, right? Who they had paid for, right? They paid for the services of those companies, and you need an advocate to fight them. It's brutal. It's absolutely brutal system. We have someone. Oh, hey, Kamikaze, another member of my community. So happy to have you, Kamikaze. How are you doing today?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh man, so this is one of those topics, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think I've mentioned it before. I'm not shy about it. I have a transplant. I was 17, I think, when I first had kidney failure, and no doctor even knew I was severely anemic for. They probably thought it was a year or two. Our medical system, as you can imagine, even the doctors haven't been so great. But I suffered, got a transplant, but the transplant process, I know Empress talked about it, but they made me prove my dad could afford the medicine with insurance. And if I hadn't have been fortunate to have a dad who makes decent money, they wouldn't have. And also, a nurse got angry at me because I had a tendency to scratch my arms. She threatened me, adverb, will reject your transplant on the day of the transplant. Will reject your transplant if you keep scratching. So they're not exactly known for their love. But I got my transplant. Then I got the thing people don't know is when they talk about the cost of medicine, is we're talking medicines. If you do not take with a transplant, you will reject your transplant, and you could even die. So I think to give you an idea of the medicine, when I took it, it gave me cancer, but it's called Cellcept, and there's always a second medicine. You should take two. One's $1,300, and I think one's a little cheaper now, $700. So if you can't afford them, they won't let you get the transplant. But yeah, I think my total cost, even now, probably 20% of my paycheck. I dedicated my life to getting multiple degrees just so I could afford my medicine, and I'm still 30% of my paycheck without being specific. It's really, really scary. But sorry, this is hard to be linear. I don't know how to do all this, but
That's fine. You're doing great.
So throughout every medical process, it was scary because a lot of times your insurance has the ability to reject approval after you've already gotten the process. So they'll approve it, and then they can come back and de-approve it. Yeah, it's really scary because that's happened to me 3 different times. But we actually had a lawyer for medical that managed to override them both. You can appeal, but you wouldn't really want to appeal. And yeah, the medicine gave me cancer. I was fortunate enough that I was able to go on something different that was experimental, but it worked. But I was lucky. The insurance did cover it, but the chemotherapy, they didn't approve. I had to go through 3 different plans. There's all kinds of different plans for chemo. I had to go through 3 different plans before the insurance would approve it. And it was a worse plan because the insurance wanted to be cheap. So that's, I had to suffer through. This was all with a wife who I couldn't marry because I had to keep my parents' medical insurance. Also going to college while sick so I could be considered a student because that protection didn't exist because I'm a little bit older than most people. I could go on more, but the general idea is every step of the way has been a fight. But yeah, I'm lucky because all my conditions and things haven't had severe complications. Okay, well, I guess you can call cancer a severe complication. But what I mean by that is I survived them all, and insurance paid for most of it. Now I'm worried because my wife got bit by a cat, and we just got a $56,000 bill. The insurance refuses to pay because it was a pet bite. It's always something new with medical, and it scares me every day. But I get through it. But I know my dad and mom, they were stressed because, I didn't work till I was 21 because of all this shit. So I guess that's kind of me just summarizing. There's a lot more, but it's kind of hard to break up all this stuff.
PrimeCayes, well, first of all, thank you for being so kind as to share that. That part about the insurance, I didn't actually mention that. So thank you for stating that. That so often there's getting approved, right? So there's getting approved for a procedure or some medication or something like that, right? It's getting pre-approved, but then there's like when it's already happened, right? And you were under the impression that this was covered, and they say, change your mind. And then you go through the appeals process, and the appeals process is what I was describing to you before. So you've gone through the situation, right? Dealing with cancer, dealing with other medical issues, right? You go through that, and you think, well, okay, I'm covered. I've been paying into this, right? You sent the approvals. Your doctor was confident that everything would be covered, but they say no. You can lose those appeals that we went through, right? Those appeals, sometimes you just lose. And then that individual is on the hook for tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars, or millions of dollars. Again, and as I was saying before, I'm not sure if you heard that, PrimeCayes, talking about those binders full of documentation for one individual, right? This individual, and that must have been millions of dollars worth of services to the hospital that the insurance companies absolutely did not want to pay for. And so the fight begins. And what if you lose?
Yeah, it's
Go ahead, please. Yeah.
it's also individual doctors. So when say you like, for instance, I've been admitted to the ER more times than I count. When I'm admitted to the ER, you'll get one doctor who is not insured by United Healthcare. You get another doctor who is not insured by Blue Cross Blue Shield. So then you will get the bills and they will be out of network or out of coverage, and the insurance won't pay for them. Now the insurance is supposed to pay for those a lot. I think there's been some government changes with that, but you have to appeal to pay them. And most people don't know that process. So of course they're gonna get screwed. And also remember, you're in the ER, you don't know how to pre-approve. You can't call ahead when you're in the ER, you can't plan anything. You get what you get. And that's happened to me a lot. I'm a king at winning those, but you do have to fight them. And I think I've been fortunate enough to get good health insurance. There's, it's a roll of the dice every time. Every company I join, I literally look at the binders of health insurance, and I have to literally sneak it from friends when I can't get it from the company. I have to get the information just to make sure I can even accept an offer. They could offer me 3 times the pay, and I'll say no because I'm worried about my life.
Yeah. Brutal. Yeah. um, and think of those words, right? That our friend Kamikaze just said. Like, he's a king of winning these fights, right? He is very well skilled in this battle. Again, that just never ends. That never ends. Think of the devastation. I know you have a family, Kamikaze.
Yeah.
Yeah. Think of the stress of, like, not being able to work at that time, right? You're a provider for your family. Not being able to work.
I can't not work. I have to work.
Okay.
You don't get a choice.
Oh, okay. So there's that too. Okay. Yeah. Sure. But so having to work. No, and that's actually important too. Having to work, because a lot of people don't even have. That's another part of the problem, right? Because it is more of a Medicare for All and all the things involved with it. And that actually is more of a comprehensive plan than just single payer. There's like more moving parts to it to actually make the system work, right? And part of it would just be that, well, when people need to use that care, they need to be able to take time off, which is not guaranteed under our system, right? So many people actually do have to work through all this, right? As they're battling some sort of sickness, some sort of illness, or maybe a child of theirs is battling that illness, and of course they have to be there. So they are in that situation. They are waging that battle, but against the illness, but also against the insurance industry, also against a hospital, right? Because hospitals are oftentimes not your friend in this situation, right? They are looking to get paid, and they're in themselves in a tough situation. Like, the money has to come from somewhere, right? And if they can't get it out of the insurance company, they will get it out of you. So the next part of that is the terror of debt collectors coming for you, right? Calling you in the middle of the night, calling you at and sending letters, right? Very bold words, so like lettering, their bold font, letting you know that you need to pay up. The medical bankruptcies, right? The forfeitures, all that stuff. This is the system that we have, that people are battling each and every day. Hundreds of thousands of people are going through this struggle right now. Millions of people going through this struggle. Thank you, Kamikaze. Is there something else you want to share with us?
I guess I can just mention about the debt collectors. I know all about that, even though I made plenty of money now in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Between, everybody starts, no one starts, well, at least if you're not rich or born with a silver spoon, everybody starts at a lower level. You have to work your way up, no matter who you are. So I had to build debt. I had to keep student loans and stay in school even when I got sick and withdrew constantly. Why? Because I was considered a student, and that would allow me to stay on my parents' insurance. And then I got 2 credit cards and used those to pay my medical debt. And then I realized, why do I need credit? I have a car. So I gave up. I just literally because I had insurance, but you get bombarded with small bills, 20, 50, 80, 100. You don't get, well, you hear the stories about the big bills. You don't hear the stories about the small bills that you sometimes don't even see, and they'll go to collections and your credit spots. So once your credit, I'm sorry, language, once your credit is destroyed, you just give up on that and you let them go to collections. And that means you have to wait 7 years if they don't come after you. And I'll be honest, and I should say this, they won't come after you for under a couple $1,000s. You ignore it, you take a measured approach. Should I let this one hit my credit? Should I pay these small ones? That way I can just, afford my medicines. It's always the question of, can I afford my treatments? That's what it always comes down to for someone with medical. But yeah, I just let those debt collections go and go. I finally in my life at a point to where it's not an issue, but no one who starts at the middle or lower class starts there. You have to build up, and it's inevitable you're going to get them if you have medical.
Thank you for that, kamikaze. It's something I had not thought of. This is perfect, right? Well, not perfect, tragic, but talking about, because you're absolutely right. We were with amazing individuals who were sharing their stories previously, and they were tossing around very big numbers, right? $20,000 a month for their medication, $18,000 a month. Empress mentioning again, thank you, our good friend Empress, for joining us. That being in that program was like 20 grand a night in a program, right? Having a hospital stay that is. First of all, maybe not intensive, but still coming home with a massive bill. And so these numbers are what stick in our heads, right? We forget about things like the deductibles, right? That people pay, right? So there's the premiums, right, that you pay every month. But then there's also those deductibles that'll come right off the top, right? There's your co-pays, and then those little bills, right? So sometimes it's not massive, but it's little. But you're not in a position to pay one or the other, right? So it may not be a jaw-dropping amount, but to you, it's too much. To you, it's a choice. Do I pay this bill, right? Or do I pay for my medications? Or do I pay for food for myself, maybe my children? Do I pay for a rent? Do I pay for a car, which I use to get to the job that pays for everything else, right? All these things are in balance. And we force people to make these choices, as Nicole pointed out when she shared her story about her son, Alec, who made that choice to ration insulin with tragic consequences, losing their life. But that was a large bill. But once again, small bills like yours. And now I'm thinking, well, is it okay if I just let this hit my credit? And long-term ramifications, right? So like I was saying with Johnny Scarlett, who also joined us, talking about like how these things can trigger generational poverty. How because imagine this, right? That kamikaze goes through something similar, but does not come out the other side with some well-paying job, right? And he's doing something interesting. You've told us about that, and it's pretty fascinating work, I think. But he doesn't have that opportunity, and so this hits his credit, and it's not catastrophic. Let's say he doesn't lose his house, right? Which is something that can happen. That doesn't happen, but let's say you have a child, and it's time for them to go to college, which we don't pay for here in the States also. And, well, they don't have credit. And so to get a loan, they need to look at your credit. But that's where those bills account come in, right? Because you let that hit your credit score again and again, now you can't get those loans to send your kid to college. Like, these things happen, these stories, right? Like, I pulled that out of my ass, but like, these stories are real. These things happen to individuals, right? They affect them in a myriad of ways. So it's not just the bill. It's not just the lack of care. It's the confluence of events that happen around these negative events, and they can compound themselves, right? And they can affect the next generation. So one sick individual can affect a number of healthy individuals for the rest of their lives, right? Going into the future. That's the system that we have. Rather than simply deciding that because kamikaze is an individual within our country, right, is a human being deserving of dignity, deserving of a life, that we're going to invest in them. Look at Kamikaze now. Again, he's actually doing something quite interesting. I don't want to blow up your spot, but he's doing something quite interesting. And he's being a productive member of society. But we decided not to invest in him as a person, to make sure that he is happy and healthy as can be, so that he can do the work that he does. There's a better way. Thank you, Kamikaze. If there's any last words you want to share, or?
No, just thank you. This is pretty amazing. This is definitely one of the closer to home topics I've had in a long time. It's depressing, I guess. I don't know how else to word it.
Yeah. Oh, it's exactly that. But thank you so much. That story was powerful and it was very useful. Thank you for being so kind as to share your experiences.
Thank you.
Okay. We have another individual who is Shipley E. I don't recognize this particular name, but thank you for joining us, Shipley.
Hi. I mean, I've been listening for the last couple of hours, and obviously folks have had some pretty meaningful things to say, and we've touched on this with the group, but I'm just wondering what you think folks are out there doing right now and what you think folks should be doing right now to make sure that we're honoring the individuals who are going through this struggle and to kind of fight for Medicare for All to improve all of this.
What I think we should be doing? Well, I really do endorse Be a Hero's plan, right? So once again, exclamation for A. So the whole point of this is to get everyone plugged into the organization, right? Into the larger movement to get Medicare for All. So how do we honor these individuals, right? For those who are alive and those who are not with us. I say start where you can, right? So like, it's doubtful for most of my audience will be able to get themselves in front of a U.S. senator tomorrow, right? And shake things up and like get this worked out. It's very doubtful that that's going to happen. However, what you might be able to reach is a local politician, right? Like a city council person or maybe a statewide politician. Talk to them, right? Like ask them what efforts are they doing within your locality, within your state, to move the ball forward. Be a Hero is talking about not just pushing for the federal single payer, which is the dream, the end goal, right? But also statewide and local efforts. So statewide single payer, right? Which some states are trying to push, right? Trying to make a reality. Or statewide public options, because we want to give individuals the ability to opt out of the profit-driven insurance model, right? And see that it's not so scary, right? That something like socialism, right? Will not destroy America, right? Simply making sure that people don't face devastating medical debt is by paying for it is something worthwhile doing. Yeah. That's so even if it's a public option, right? Which isn't the preferred option, but it is moving the ball forward. That's something you could do. Organize at reducing the Medicare, eligibility age, right? That's something that's happening. Talk to policymakers, or right, another part, which is part of Be a Hero strategy, is getting those stories out there, right? So if you have stories yourselves, talk to your family and friends about them, right? There are a lot of people, including my own, including literally my own family. I literally don't deal with this myself, who are skeptical of the system. Well, if they're voters, well, then their opinions matter, right? So you want them to realize how important this is. And if they're a person that can be convinced by facts and logic, well, then great, use that. There are plenty of numbers to back up the claims that we're making here today. If not, though, if they're not that type of person, then tell them a story. Tell them your story. maybe relate a story that you've heard here. Show them the VOD, right? Of this. We'll have that up on YouTube. This VOD. Like show them what people are going through, and maybe change a few minds, right? You can organize around this. You can create, like, if this is something that's important to you, you can create your own organization. There's a myriad of things that you can do if you want to be involved, right? I think Be a Hero does a great way, has a great way of, if you're not ready to be a full-blown organizer yourself, right? It is a great place to begin, right? To get yourself hands dirty. Did that answer your question? I don't know. I spoke a lot of words there.
Yeah, I think it answers it.
Thanks so much. All right, because yeah, I just kept talking. All right, so if you have anything else to say, Shipley, we'd love to hear it. If not, we'll move on to anyone else would like to join in. Again, exclamation point M for Ray if you want to share your stories. We want to hear those stories. M for Ray, and again, this is the Discord server of the Be a Hero platform, or Be a Hero fund, and they are where you're going to get plugged into the larger movement and organization, right? But right this second, you can share a story. If they have a story to share, I would love to hear from you. I'm not sure if anyone within the stage has anything they want to say right now. If not, I can continue riffing.
Hi,
Amanda.
I'm back now.
Okay, great.
Yeah, no, sorry. My computer's like overheating, so that's why I came in and then came back out. I don't know if there's like a background noise.
No, we're good. We can hear it. You're good.
Okay. Yeah. So I wanted to point out, you did mention that, I think I heard you say you don't really lose your home, but there's actually is like there are people that lose, and I know you didn't mean it like that, sorry. But like, so when you're on state insurance, like most elderly people are, when they pass away, and let's say they owned a home, the state is actually able to take that home in exchange for the health care that they receive. Most of the time the home doesn't cover the full cost, and so like you were saying, it causes generational poverty, because people that should have had a house passed down to them when their mother or grandmother passed away, the state now has ownership of that home.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
crazy, right?
It is absolutely insane. Yeah.
Yeah. And then so I was a certified nursing assistant for about 8 years, and so I worked at hospitals. I worked in people's homes directly. I worked in pretty much every healthcare setting that you can think of. And there were so many times that I was sent to a person's house that was a 2-person assist, that I was sent by myself. So while these people, are getting billed, and while the MCOs, the medical providers, are making money, even though they're sending people there, they're not actually getting the care that they need. There was no way that I could do what was needed for a person that's a 2 assistant as 1 person. So like, as they're expecting, their care providers to come in and help them with their shower or transfer them and stuff, I would literally just be able to help them brush their teeth, sit there, tell them stories, make their meals and things like that. And they'd have to wait another week until someone who could do a 2-person assist by themselves came to their house. And that's just, I mean, can you imagine not being able to take a shower? Like, it's just so mind-blowing, and it's heartbreaking. But a few years ago, Iowa lost one of our state providers. So we went from 3 MCOs to 2, which kicked hundreds of thousands of people off of their insurance. And during this transition, and a lot of them were children. And every year, you have to like reapply to this Medicaid program. So every year, this issue that I'm going to describe here happens. So when you reapply for your Medicaid, you then they assign you often to a new MCO, And you are then forced to fight with an entirely new MCO because they're not connected. So all of your health records, all the medications that you took prior, all the times that you fought for the right medications, you have to start over and redo again. So yes, so like for example, during this transition, when my daughter got kicked off of her insurance, she has life-saving prescriptions and stuff. I was having to use um, like platforms like GoFundMe and whatnot to pay for her prescriptions during this transition period. Just one of them cost over $500, and I've had to ask, like when I'm offered a job, I've had to ask jobs to cut my pay. I've had to deny pay raises in order to keep her on state insurance, and it's kind of like dehumanizing and makes me feel, like just awful, because like I'm kind of stuck in this system because my daughter's sick and I can't advance in respect to like pay increases and stuff like that because my daughter's sick. And so that means, that like she can't do normal things that we'd be able to do had I been able to accept those pay raises or accept those salaries. And so it's such an all encompassing thing. Like she, like I would love to be able to put her into dance or gymnastics and things like that, but I can't. Because it's just this awful system. And I also just want to bring up that so 1 in 6 people have a disability or currently have a disability in America. And most people within their lifetime will go through a period where they experience a disability, whether it's from getting hurt, long term, short term, mental health, anything. Most people will experience a disability of some kind. And as someone who is not healthy, I don't understand how we expect people that are not healthy to continually fight for their health. Like it just is asinine to me.
Agreed. Um, so the so your story was quite powerful. The part that stuck out to me again was your daughter, right? And what we were talking about in terms of how these things echo, right? So it's like throwing a stone in the water and seeing the waves spread out from there. So uh, so you're saying that you can't because you need to, be below a certain threshold. You're doing a great job. Again, another person who's quite industrious, who's doing what they need to be according to capitalism, right? Exactly what they want you to be, a good worker be, right? You are doing what it takes to take care of your family, right? Trying to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, but not too high. And now, like, so you're saying that you're not accepting these pay raises, and as we know, right, like when you, let's say, move to a different job, right, how do you get a pay raise? Well, they look at like what you were making previously, right? So this can affect a person throughout their entire lives, right? This lost income that you could have made, that you earned, right, through your performance, through, again, being a great worker bee, contributing to the economy like we're told that you're supposed to. You're denying yourselves and your family, right, that economic support to get the medical support. And so even if your daughter became healthy tomorrow, right, that doesn't mean she and you would be done being affected by this whole ordeal, right? This would still continue on into the future. Amanda?
Yeah, exactly. It's like everyone has that's kind of against this is pull yourself up by the bootstraps, but there literally is a threshold that I can pull myself up to without potentially killing my child. Um, and that's just because the medications are so expensive. And on top of the medications, she has three specialists. And so, like you were talking about earlier, you have those copays. And so in Iowa, there's like tiers of, what type of insurance. And there's been times where I've been in tiers where I've had to still pay copays and still pay part of my prescriptions and stuff. Um, and like, so pretty much every year I've had to calculate because the way that they calculate whether you're approved or not for state insurance isn't just based on your income. Like, so they go off gross income plus net income, size of family, and just a whole bunch of other factors. So every year I'm literally having to calculate what the maximum amount I can make in order to not get kicked off insurance. And the conversations with employers is always so like I work in politics, and so my job's it's actually one of the reasons I started consulting on my own. um but prior to this, as an organizer, I'm changing jobs every 6 9 months to a year depending on campaign season and what if I'm working with an org or a candidate. And the conversations I have to have are just so humiliating.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, knowing that the work and the effort that you put in is worth like a certain dollar amount, like your experience is worth a certain dollar amount, but please don't pay me that. That
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and then it makes me feel like I'm like taking advantage of the system.
Mm.
Um, but there's this gap, and that gap that it's like I either have to I'm gonna make up numbers because I don't want to give
Yeah.
out
Hmm. Sure.
too much information here, but like let's say it's $39,000 K, right, that you make to get approved to be on the state insurance. And the gap with my daughter's prescriptions and everything else, and how much it would cost monthly for insurance, because I actually have done it. I have accepted jobs and um gone off insurance and enrolled, and then uh, that it is just so awful and exhausting too. I feel it's like sorry, I kind of went off topic and lost my point.
You were talking
Oh,
about
the
giving us,
threshold.
yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
the threshold. I would have to make over $25,000 more. So like of what generally, so again, let's say I'm offered $45,000 a year, right?
Mhm.
I would need to ask for 65,000 just so I could afford my child's prescriptions and insurance.
Wow. Yeah. How many individuals are able to make that jump in one leap, right?
Right?
Yeah, because you can't afford. It's not. There's something that you can afford a gap in coverage, right? The care needs to happen now. Can't wait a year or two for that to happen, or however long it takes. And to um, how many employers would be willing to do that, right? Like not no employer I've ever worked for would be willing to assist you with that. Like if they think that they'll just like, okay, well this is very complicated. Well, good luck, Amanda, on your endeavors, but I will think we'll go over someone else. Like why would they deal with this, right? So instead, please pay me less.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Um, it's I'm continuously being left speechless, but not speechless because I actually have to talk for all of you. But continuously being shocked by the things that I hear from different individuals. I'm sorry about that, Amanda, but thank you for sharing that. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
No, I guess maybe just another component to all of this is like in situations of
You
emergency.
kind of like sound really quiet. Maybe you're away from your mic.
Yep, sorry. Better.
Much better.
Yeah, no, maybe just to add a little bit there, like in situations of emergencies, like for example, last year there was a derecho that wreaked havoc across Iowa and put us out of power in some areas for almost 2 weeks. And there were people who relied on, oxygen and things like that, that obviously without power didn't have it, and the state didn't have any system set up in order to help them, so these people ended up relying on pretty much activists within the community to make sure that they stayed alive.
Wow. Relying on activists to make sure they stay alive.
Yes.
I would think that within a system that was completely paid for from the top, that we could create better systems, right? Like better ways to interface with the public. I think that would help allow us open these things up, because I mean, like going back to something that you said previously, right? Talking about how individuals who rely on care, right, are only getting pieces of it, right? So for those people who need long-term care, whether within a hospital setting or a home setting, right, aren't getting what they need. So even like when there isn't a natural disaster or whatever, right, under the best of times, because of reimbursement rates, for instance, they aren't getting everything that they need. I would imagine a system where this was simply taken care of, right? Where the money part wasn't the focus. It's more just the organizational aspect. The money's taken care of. Let's focus on the best ways to deliver that care, however that might be, right? And wherever that might be. This reminds me of going back to the hospital. They would have these different trainings, right, for the medical professionals, like continuing education type trainings, if you're familiar with that type of stuff, where they would, introduce different topics to them. I remember one was about outpatient care, and the challenges associated with that. And how to get in contact with individuals, and make sure that they show up for their appointments, right? And it's making sure that whatever situation you're dealing with their home life, because people have a wide variety of situations for their home lives, right? Didn't interfere too much with their care. But part of that is simply ensuring that they have the ability to pay, that that there is no interruption in that care, right? So part of it is finding grants, right, for individuals when you know there's going to be some interruption coming up, right? And when you can predict that, which you sometimes cannot do so, right? So part of that is making sure that these people didn't feel alone, being away from the hospital, away from these medical professionals, right? And this struggle against the insurance companies, right? So applying for grants, applying for different programs, like our friend, like our friend Mike was doing, just a hodgepodge of programs to cover all the different aspects of their care. And so this was just like part of like, how do we provide excellent care to meet our patients where they're at? And where they're at is oftentimes a disadvantaged position, right? Because if they weren't disadvantaged, then we wouldn't be talking about them, right? Then they'd have the support they need. So this was part of the struggle. So there's a gap in care. Even when you get care, that doesn't mean you will get all the care that you need. There's oftentimes a gap, and hope for the best. Narrow that gap when you can, right? Narrow it however you can, so they can get as much care, but still not 100%. So not everything they need. Imagine a system where if you needed that care at home, that simply was provided. We have this is a jobs program too, so you understand, right? You have an elderly individual, or maybe someone who is disabled, or what have you, maybe just simply temporarily ill to the point that they can't work or something like that. And the workers show up, right? You apply, let them know, the government know what's going on, and they show up, and it's taken care of. Imagine that. Or just
and oh, sorry, go
no,
ahead.
please, no, you go ahead.
Yeah, and I also wanted to point out that a lot of times people are in these situations because they didn't get the care to begin with. So with like we could prevent a lot of the cost and a lot of the care needed if we addressed these problems when they first happen. The way that the states are set up now, it's pretty much we're not going to help you until you absolutely need it. And so by that point, then it's extremely expensive. And when, a simple test and a few different, remedies could have prevented these people from needing this costly care, which, let's be honest, it's extremely costly because of the way our system is set up. But it's because we don't prevent it.
Yeah. And that's something that I guess I wasn't thinking of it as well. How, and this is something that we've heard, we've talked about previously on this channel, stories like that where people wait, or because the insurance company, right? Even if you have insurance, the insurance makes you wait for care until it's absolutely catastrophic. Right, so this is part of rationing. This is another aspect of rationing. One, when you don't have the insurance. So there was a story that I had heard about a woman with a child. A young child. She didn't have insurance. Her child had some sort of fever. What she did was she parked outside of a hospital with her child, and told herself, "Well, I won't go in until the child's temperature goes up to like 102 or something, right? Hopefully it goes down. Please go down. Please go down. Because I cannot afford to go inside. I'll have to, because I care about my child, and I'll have to deal with the consequences otherwise, but I cannot afford to go inside." This is the thing that we do. And then when you do have insurance, I'm saying that we're not going to pay for it until you've reached a certain level of catastrophe, then I guess sure. But by then it's more expensive. They're just hoping the problem goes away. It's like maybe if we ignore it, it goes away. Sounds like a great system. Go ahead, please.
No, this actually reminded me of a time. So I told you that there are times that I have taken jobs, gotten insurance and stuff, and my daughter was at school and an emergency happened, and so the school can't I don't know the reasonings, maybe because of the exact situation, but the school couldn't determine whether they could call 911 or have an ambulance come without my approval. And I was, working, and so it took me about 10 minutes to get the phone, figure out everything that was going on, and when I was asked if they could call the ambulance, I remember thinking, and I feel so awful for one of my first thoughts being, how am I going to pay for this? I'm sitting here determining whether I can afford it, and is it going to cut into my food budget? And so do I call an ambulance, or do I try to rush there and take her there myself? How serious is it? But I had to literally, in a matter of seconds, determine whether I could budget it with food and whether the emergency warranted that, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. No, it actually it makes sense for you. It doesn't make sense for how to run a society. Sure.
Yeah.
And I've actually had an instance in which a friend of mine had an ambulance call on them that they didn't need. The ambulance showed up, and this was a foreign exchange student at my university. So if there's a medical emergency, they must call an ambulance, right? They can't do anything else. But this ambulance shows up, and she's like, I didn't call you guys. I don't need this. She had to pay $1,000 out of pocket for an ambulance she never called, she didn't need, and she was just, because of her immigration status, too scared to fight against the system that's so entrenched in our society. So like, it's just the fact that we have to pay $1,000 to a private entity, right? And these EMTs are vastly underpaid, right? They often don't have benefits. They have to deal with traumatic shit all the time. I have a friend who's an EMT. They don't get adequate health services and coverage, right? If they admit to some of the trauma that they go through, they risk losing their job, right? And it just puts further pressures through the exact same system that these companies are in turn profiting off of massively.
First of all, thank you, our good friend Empress, for being so kind as to join us for a little bit longer. But you brought up something amazing, well, amazingly sad, and how these problems compound with others, right? So it's not just the medical issue, right? Not just the insurance, right? So it's like you said, your friend who is dealing with immigration, right? And I happen to have some experience with this. Your friend, excuse me, dealing with immigration and being too afraid to fight against a system because that might call in to bring attention from immigration services. That might put them at risk of being literally ejected from the nation. This is a thing. This is huge. What you've just mentioned here, Empress. Thank you again for doing that. There are so many individuals here who are undocumented, who or have some sort of tenuous immigration status, and because of that, for the various injustices they may face throughout their time here in the States, right? And they come in many different ways, right? For instance, dealing with the police, right? Those various injustices, they keep quiet. Because whatever it is they're about to face, it's better than being ejected and separated from their family, or not being able to complete their education, or what have you, right? Maybe being sent to a country that they've never been to before, at least not that they remember, and maybe a country they don't know the language of, right? That's a terrifying outcome for them. And so when they aren't getting the medical help that they need, right? Rather than advocate for themselves, there's that word again, rather than advocate for themselves, you just go along with whatever's happening. Keep yourself quiet. This is not the only issue these things that can compound with. That's just one, and it's thank you for bringing that up, Empress. And
yeah, like in a similar vein, a lot of people don't know, under the Trump administration, day one, they removed all ADA information from the White House website.
Yeah.
And during Pride Month, in the middle of the pandemic, they tried to solidify a policy that would establish gender as being specifically linked to sex under insurance law and healthcare law, such that trans individuals could legally be discriminated against at the federal level in the insurance and healthcare industry. And we already have so many issues with trans people getting access to gender-affirming care and care generally. This would have literally killed people. Luckily, it didn't take effect, but this is very clearly a political move targeting the healthcare of a specific population for almost strictly political purpose, not giving a damn about the actual health of those individuals, because it's not about the individual's healthcare. It's about what political points we can score. And this highlights a significantly broader issue of, if you are someone who is disabled, if you're someone who experiences intersectional marginalization, you're screwed, right? Because you don't have a guarantee to healthcare year over year. You have no idea what policies are going to change when the next administration or the next Congress or the next Senate or the next state legislature comes in. You could find yourself in a position where you lose your healthcare overnight because you don't have a right to it, right? And this makes it very difficult to plan long term. This makes it very difficult to hold down jobs. This makes it difficult to, plan around things like schooling or starting a business. It impacts every life decision you make.
Okay, so that's you bring up a lot of great points here. But before we walk away from, I'm going to go back to that. But before we walk away from it, I had this incident, right? And it's very small. It's very small, right? It's like nothing compared to the stories that have been faced, right? But I was uninsured, right? And I had just been lucky that nothing had happened to me, right? Because this is a choice, right, that we all have to make, right? When you're uninsured, what you can and cannot be involved in, right? Like, so I made sure not to do anything that could be physically risky, because if I fucking break a bone, I am screwed, right? So it just limited my life, right? It's something that was always in the back of my mind. I was in my room in this bed behind us, right? I was sleeping, and then I was suddenly woken up. I had a liquid coming up from my throat, right? And this is a feeling that I had never felt before, right? This is just, I didn't know what this was, but it was coming up, rushing up onto my throat. My very first thought was, please don't let it be blood. Not because of what that would mean for me in terms of my medical status, because I knew I couldn't afford it. That if blood came out of my mouth, that I was going to bankrupt my family. That was my very first thought. Luckily, it was just happened to be acid, right? Stomach acid that came out. But my very first thought was, please don't let it be blood. I can't afford it. Yeah. So.
And that thought so many people have, and a lot of people, especially like elderly people and disabled people, don't want to continue their care because they don't want to burden their families. I wanted to ask Sam or maybe Empress or anyone on here if they know this specific program that I'm going to describe here, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions around like ICE and hospitals and whether
You're a little away from your mic. Get closer to your mic again.
Oh, sorry.
No problem.
Yeah, no. So I wanted to ask someone, anyone here on the panel that might know, because there's a lot of misconceptions with ICE and the hospital. And you know, if you're an immigrant, ICE can't come in and take you. But if you are actually uninsured or I believe even state insured, after a certain threshold, there's a program that they do send you back to your own country. So pretty much if you become too expensive seeking care here in America, they will send you back to the country that you immigrated from.
Well, I can't really speak to the policy, but I can say this. Both during my times in and out of hospitals, during my period in education, I've had many very close friends who are here undocumented because in their home countries, they had very, very progressive degenerative conditions, some cases heart, some cases lungs, things that they just did not have the technology or capacity to treat in their home countries. So they came to the United States to get care. And there's almost all of them I'm fairly certain are still here undocumented to this day. And if they get sent back to their country, it's a death sentence. They will not be able to survive. I have friends in Canada as well, right, who they say, I can't move outside of my country because, again, it would be a death sentence. Their care would be inaccessible completely to them because of the financial burdens of the United States, right? And these people that I know, many of them are forced to try and have money sent from home to the U.S. because obviously it's very difficult for them to hold jobs here, right? Given their lack of proper status, and there's no system to protect these people. So it's that, well, in the sense that they have no recourse. They don't really have many legal protections, and this is just an atrocious system, right? If someone is here seeking healthcare that they cannot get in their home country, they should not be considered a criminal, right? They should be, they should be supported, right? That this should not be the kind of society we foster. And a huge part of the reason that's the kind of society we foster is because A, terrible immigration policies, but B, we have a system that faults people for getting sick, that faults people for being disabled, right? The burden is not on the state to take care of you. The burden is on the insurance company to take care of you. Oh well, you should have had better genetics. Oh well, maybe if you hadn't had that one soda, you wouldn't have had a heart attack, and now you have a $500,000 medical bill because you had to have a bypass, right? Like, it's like, what? Well, wait, hang on. I was predisposed to this because of parental condition. Oh, I'm sorry, you were predisposed? Well, guess what? Now it's $100 million bill, right? Obviously being a little bit exaggeratory and ridiculous here, right? But this is something that happens, right? They'll find out that your thing that they partially covered, which was already very expensive, right, had an underlying condition that you either didn't tell them about or maybe you didn't even know about, right? And now you're liable for significantly more because they will do whatever they can to blame you and force that cost onto you. And especially if you're someone whose immigration status is in question, or even if you're here legally, right? This can be a burden that you simply can't recover from.
Yeah. And so my daughter's medical condition, she was born with, and so she was born in 2010, and without the ACA and including pre-existing conditions, every time that I had switched jobs and things like that, she would have not been covered. Like, I would have been forced to stay at a job no matter the circumstances or situations, whether they were, a good working environment or not, because had I switched, she wouldn't have been protected.
Again, which relates back to what Empress was saying before about how these decisions affect everything, all aspects of your life. Not just whether you can afford to do things, right? Like afford a vacation. That's part of it, right? Something that you and your family deserves, like a break from the daily grind. But there are so many decisions that have to be made years into the future. Like, it makes it difficult to plan out your future when who knows what other medical bill is coming down the pike, and who knows. But you're sure that when will it strike, or when your insurance company will deny you, right, for the care again that they owe you. It affects everything, absolutely everything. Thank you for that. Thank you so much. Again, to my audience, !M for A. We're trying to get everyone plugged into the larger struggle. Okay, I continuously mistype that. !M for A in chat. We are working with a Be a Hero campaign, and they have a Discord server. Was going to help us organize around this issue of our Medicare for All, around making it a reality here in the States in any way that we can make it a reality, moving the ball even just a little bit, and through various programs like state-based single payer or state-based public option, or whenever we can find a victory. So it's a fantastic organization. I want you all to be a part of it. If any of you want to share stories like these kind of individuals have shared their stories, now is the time. Jump on in. It's audio only now, as you can see, so you don't have to worry about having a camera. Right? Just be willing to share a story. If you'd like to do that, we would love to have you. This is and I want to say my thanks to activists, right? Activists like Empress, right? Who've gone out and made a difference, who've actively have made a difference in this struggle, right? There are a lot of people, and in big ways and small ways, right? So Empress was talking about how within their school, there was an individual who was being discriminatory and denying care to individuals that needed it, right? Like through the university program.
Discrimination on the basis of race, abuse, and the culmination that it resulted in, right? It's easy to say like, oh yeah, we got her fired, she's getting replaced, right? It was 5 years of challenging seemingly small individual policies over and over and over again, building those networks of support and connections throughout the university, talking to people about all these different issues within your local community, making people realize, hey, this is fucked up. This needs to be changed, right? So I point to that as an example, but it was 5 years of work that led up to that culmination.
Yeah. So, yeah, the fact that you made a difference, like think about how much effort had to go into that. My point is that I want to thank the people who are showing that organizing, because this is what Empress did was something is on a smaller scale what Be a Hero and other organizations like it are trying to do it on a larger scale, right? Gather stories of people affected by an unjust system and try to change minds, try to change that system, right? It's a long, hard struggle, right? So they didn't, so as Empress described, that change didn't happen overnight. Unfortunately, there's no quick results. Bernie didn't win his election. Even if he had, right, something that I loved about Bernie was that he talked about how it's not me, it's us. And that even if you put me in office, even like say best case scenario, you put him in office with a filibuster-proof Senate, right, and a having the House under control, right, and somehow having the Supreme Court be Democratic, right. If you gave him a full deck, there's still the fight's not over. Right, there's still organizing to be done. There's still pressure to be laid upon because the system, right, the system, this for-profit system, will not let itself be dismantled. They have the resources to fight back. They have a lot of money. All we have is people power. That's what we have. We can still win, but we need individuals like you, yes, you at home, to be a part of that struggle. So, like Empress, right, and that attitude that I love. Thank you, Empress, again, on that attitude of like, well, I'm not going to give up. If there's a change in this case, a locality, right, that needs to be made, right. There are people who are not getting the help that they need, and so I'm going to be the change in the world, right. I'm going to make that happen. So I'll work on this. That's what we need individuals like you to do, to be a part of this movement, right, in any way that you can, right, large and small. And all of us have our own different situations. All of us have our own different amount of resources that we have available for the struggle. So not everyone can dedicate years and years, but hey, if you can, when there's a letter writing campaign or something, right? If you just did that, that would help. If you made a phone call to your representative, that would help, right? I've done that. I've called representatives.
And you get all your friends to do it too,
Yeah.
right? Like I can't emphasize enough. I say I've been working on this for 5 years, right? But it was lots of, I was doing this while in school full time. I was doing this while working multiple jobs, right? I was doing this while I didn't necessarily have like a secure housing location. I was moving back and forth between multiple different places because of the fuck shit that my campus was doing, and just trying to not be at home, right? So it was working together with other people who are passionate about this. Some stayed through it to the end, like my friend Joelle, and some came and went. But like helping build that community and that kind of, as we're doing right now, right, sharing those stories and getting that information to other people within your community. Because one, right, it helps with the issue of the day, right, and two, those relationships last into the future, right? And you're creating new activists every time that you talk to people about these issues, work with people on these issues. Like literally, all I asked these friends to do was just write, something short about like their experiences with The Office, right? And we had 20 different people. Like I even said, like, write anonymously. And we had 20 different people who were willing to attach their names to this and say, we trust you with our story because of the work that you've done, right? And the work that we've, we know people who've worked with you, and amass this collection together, right? It's not just about the big changes, and there were losses along the way. It wasn't perfect. There were some times where we just lost the energy, or we just, the structures were just too tough to actually challenge, or the issues just didn't have a very clear solution. But we kept pushing and pushing until something happened. And eventually something does happen one way or another, because we will be heard.
Yeah, that's
and that.
Go ahead, Amanda.
No, you go ahead. I was actually going to say that's one thing that I love about Be a Hero is that they aren't just it's a national platform, but they go into these communities and they want people's stories within these communities because they understand that the most effective way to get these messages across is the technical word relational organizing. So kind of like reaching out
Mm.
to your network and telling these personal stories and building these relationships.
Yeah, thank you, Amanda. Yeah, exactly how we work, and Empress, exactly what you're talking about. That it's the personal connections between people that end up making a difference in the end. And one thing that if you look at research on how people consume media, the facts and figures are really powerful when you're trying to reinforce what people already believe. But if you want to convince people or to get people involved when they're previously not interested in being involved or feeling apathetic, it's emotion, and it's making a connection that people feel with another person that is going to get people over that hump and convince them. And I've been following along with what's going on in the Twitch chat, and I want to just respond to some of the stuff I've seen. And I think it's really important to address right now the political situation that we're in, where Joe Biden doesn't support Medicare for all, and as you said, Prime, earlier, Bernie didn't win. He didn't win the primary, and so I just I want to say that I don't think that should discourage anybody, because the purpose of the campaign that we're starting here is to look for any win that we can right now, starting right now, and then to go as far as we can with those wins and build upon them. So if you look at um, how political victories work, it's rarely ever has there ever been a situation where um, a big victory was just won unprecedented with nothing to back it up. It just came out of nowhere, right? Usually, the way things work in American politics is you win a victory in a limited capacity, whether it's a geographic location or a limited piece of legislation that then serves as a base, or even sort of like a pilot program for what you want to do in a larger scale. So one of the reasons why, if you are in this Discord, you see we've built out all these different channels, is we have a lot of different potential avenues that we can pursue that will eventually potentially lead to Medicare for all. And and we don't know which one's going to be the right one. We don't know which one's going to lead to Medicare for all. But if we pursue all at once and look for every opportunity we can, then we can get there. And so that could be doing something at the national level, but in a more limited capacity. It could be organizing at the state level or even the local level for for a uh, more like a single payer system. Those are the things that end up serving as the models that then get taken larger and larger and lead to larger and larger victories. So that's why we're starting with this strategy to start right here, right now, where we are today, and take every victory we can get it along the way toward eventually winning the biggest prize that we can for the American people, which is Medicare for all, or single payer, some form of single payer system for healthcare in this country.
I love it. Once again, everyone, exclamation M for A, so you can be involved with that Discord server. And I have an international audience. I know there are many individuals here who are outside the states, but that doesn't mean you can't get involved. So if you want to jump in, is that right, Sam? That I'll take help where you can get it.
Absolutely, and anyone who has anything to offer, this is an all hands on deck moment that is hopefully going to start something that leads to a much larger. We hope that it snowballs, it grows larger and larger. So, um, anything that anybody has to contribute, we're open to feedback, we're open to input, and we're open to uh, anybody's energy. And we're going to have more media like this coming in, where people are going to be doing more events, creating more video content for people to watch. And we're also going to be offering opportunities for people to get involved directly in organizing programs. So that are being run by large, well-resourced organizations that
that can lead to real change. So it's a really exciting moment, and I hope you'll join us. It's really
Yes,
exciting.
everyone. Yes, this is fantastic. Exclamation point M4A. Join the Discord server right there. Join that Discord server. Again, it doesn't matter if you're not in the States. If you think this is an issue worth fighting for, organizing over at whatever your own level is, just start there. It's free to join the server. Join it, and we love to have you there. I love for you to be a part of this effort. I think it's a good place to end this one. It's a hopeful note that, like, despite losses, and if you're an activist, you got to get used to losses. that's part of it. But despite that, there's
Lord knows we take a lot of them.
Exactly, right? So despite those, that if you keep on pushing, right, and that's how all those big changes, right, we remember the victories, right? This is what we do, right? We remember the victories, we remember the signing sessions, right? We signed a piece of bill, right? Like, we remember the civil rights era at the point of when they won, or did a huge march, but it doesn't talk about all the other many struggles and many failures that came over the years and decades beforehand of individuals organizing against what seems like impossible odds that are bigger than what we're facing, actually, right? The struggles of the past that some individuals fought for are much bigger than this struggle. So there's no reason that we can't accomplish it. We just need people to care. We need people to organize, to be a part of this, to fight however way they can, right? In any way that they can. I think this is a perfect first step. It's just sign up for the Discord, M4A, and get plugged into the larger movement. I want to thank everyone who came. We're going to continue my stream. So my stream's going to continue after this, right? So we're going to continue doing stuff. But I want to thank the people who've come in and shared their stories. So thank you, Empress, for being so kind. Empress has been amazing. You're an incredible storyteller, right? You've had an incredible story to tell, but you yourself are an incredible storyteller. So thank you for being so kind as to share that.
It really means a lot. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I mean it, friend. You're pretty damn great. So thank you, Empress, and also
You're making me blush.
Also thank you, Amanda, our friend, or one of our newer friends who joined in and told her story, another powerful one. I know these things are deeply personal, but they mean something. As you already know, the power of that, they mean something. So thank you for spending the time for sharing that.
Yeah. Can I just give a little bit of advice for anyone that wants to get involved?
Please.
Yeah. So I think the key to being an advocate or activist is learning how to channel your anger and learning how to use the losses as motivation.
I see that. Yeah, I see that. Exactly that. Use that loss as motivation, knowing that you won't be stopped. Especially for so many individuals, right, who are part of the struggle, is that they have no other choice, right? It's not like this is something that they can put off. No, this is a fight for their lives. So many people part of the Be a Hero organization, that's what they've decided. This is a fight for our lives of our children. If it's a child that's being affected, or other family members or friends, right? So this is not something that they can back away from. So yes, channel those losses into anger, into something productive, and move forward from there. And then take your victories, again, going back to what Sam said previously, take your victories when you can, because it's the culmination of all these things, right? That builds the movement, and that builds to that one moment where everything breaks. You don't know where that moment's going to happen, right? So it could be next year, it could be the year after that, and it could be from a surprising quarter. When it comes to these movements, it's like it's utterly impossible until it's completely inevitable. That's how they always work. Afterwards, people will say, well, of course it was going to happen. No, it wasn't obvious, right? The victories of the civil rights movement weren't guaranteed. People fought and died for them. the victories that'll come from this movement won't simply happen. People are fighting and they're dying right now. So let's make something of that. Let's continue that struggle. But it's all up to you. !M for A in chat to join into that server. Love to have you there. And I finally want to thank Sam again. Sam reaching out, wanting to work with myself and my community. I'm so happy, honored. They reached out to me. Thank you so much, Sam. If there's anything else you want to say about this.
No, I just want to thank you, Prime. You've done an amazing job of drawing out these incredible stories, moving stories from people tonight, and articulating the correct, what I believe is the correct strategy to get where we want to go in a really articulate way. So thank you for taking the time and for being committed to this, and for offering your talents, because it's done a great service for this cause. Looking forward to working with you more.
Please. Yes. And I want you guys to know, I don't want this to be a one and done thing. This is not like simply raising money for a charity. I want this to be an ongoing effort, right? Because that's what organizing is. That's what Empress, for instance, was doing, right? It wasn't just, oh, we'll do this for an afternoon, we'll raise awareness and we're done. No, there's more to it, right? So I want to be involved in this movement. Hope you'll be involved in this movement going forward. So we hope to do more events coming up. Don't know what that'll look like. Don't know when that'll happen. I don't know. But we hope to do more events, and we hope that you'll be around to support us and take part, be a part, hopefully more storytellers, right? Or however you can, because maybe not, you don't have a story like a super compelling story you feel, right? Or it's something that you just don't want to share. There are other ways that you can help out. !M for A to join in that struggle. All right. Thank you so much. Again, we're going to continue on with our own stream and do our open walk on panel after this. So we'll do our usual thing. Thank you so much, Sam, for being so kind as to help me put this all together.
Thank you. Honored to do it with you.
All right.